So you're a beginner, you're in my channel and you want to learn how to work on an airsoft gun a lot easier. We're going to go back in this gun and work on the feeding for me, but for this video I'm just going to show you what you really kind of just need for tools. You can see here I just have various screwdrivers. I've got a long one with a big Phillips, something to pluck the anti-reversal latch, small Phillips. These are long. I use this for various things. Long flathead, and just a standard size Phillips and flathead. So I'll show you how to use these tools the way I do, and how to make it a little bit easier to get in and out of the gearbox. We also have included, you need some type of hammer and maybe pliers, not in all cases. The motor has already been removed on here. Sometimes you need hex as well. I have a screwdriver with a hex on it, but you'd go ahead and remove this. And the orientation of the motor grip, this is a version 2. It goes like this generally, is red loops around. They both start in the back, but black loops on the top here and red loops around to the edge. So your motor would get both terminals that way. So you take this off and then you take this one off. And so basically, you know, this process from start to finish can depend on what you're doing. Can take a long time, can take a short time. I'm just going to go through it. I guess we'll just go ahead and start there. So take the big flathead, look down here and get the screws on this. Try not to strip any of your screws. If you do, you're not going to be going in and out of your gearbox or in and out of your gun completely very often. Good thing about these is they are magnetic, and so you can see that becomes very helpful sometimes. Sometimes it becomes very helpful. I'm not going to answer that because, not because I don't want to hear somebody, but it's almost always a telemarketer. Alright, so you go ahead and you pull this off, and you gently want to take this out here. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to rip your terminals. The motor terminals sometimes can be fragile. In this case they aren't, because I put these on myself and they're a better quality. So the screws left in here, and I'm just going to put this to the side, and we've got part access. I'm going to go ahead and I would take this off by popping this pin right here. So the top's already been taken off. You'd slide it off on this type of AEG. The body's different than a KWA. So next I'm going to do here is get into the stock. What I'm going to do is just pull these parts not far enough. I can actually, if I was to pull on this, just pull that out of my way. And then see down there and get the screw if I can. It seems that this is blocking my way, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off first. So you're getting into your M4 for the first time, and this kind of feels like I'm working backwards because I've shown everything ahead of this process, but I just want to show you how easy it is to work on your gun, and basically to get your fears gone. Now I had a video, or have still, I have a video of closing a gearbox with an M150 spring one-handed. I load the spring in and then one hand just close the top of it. And I kind of want to demonstrate, I think this was the gearbox, and I don't think it's an M150 spring anymore. But I want to demonstrate how to make it easy for you, so you can get, you know, pretty much the same thing if you want to do that. Alright, so you pull this off here. You don't want to lose any of the screws or anything, just set them aside. Put that aside. This pin came out, but you'd normally take this out because it's not a tight fit anymore. And then the next pin is already coming out too. You want this pin out here and this pin here. So both those are gone. And then just turn this over and get access right to the magazine release button. Just undo this. Make sure to set all your parts out so you know where they go. Sometimes I set them to the right hand side just so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we're at this point. Just go ahead and lift out the gearbox. You can see how I'm just cradling it. Again, you don't want to mess up your motor terminals. Let's just go ahead and lift that out. Okay, so you get to this point. Here's some things I'm going to teach you. Now, I've done this plenty of times in my channel, but again, if you're new, you're going to want to learn this part. Right here you can see that this is retracted, this air nozzle. The way you can tell is if you press down the air nozzle, it will get to this point. Mine's already all the way down, so I'm going to detract it, but at the same time I need to make sure that the piston is all the way forward. So I insert the screwdriver just a touch to see where it is. It's all the way forward almost. So I can safely do the anti-reversal latch without having a locked gearbox. The problem with the locked gearbox and doing the anti-reversal latch is if your shimming's not good, if there's too much pressure, you can actually still blow teeth. Depending on how you pull the anti-reversal latch. If you pull the anti-reversal latch and let go, it could snap back in place and everything that's moving can hit real hard and goodbye some of these gears. Sometimes that's what happens. But so the safest way I do this, so I never have an issue ever, is I check where the piston is to see how much the spring is compressed. And so that's a really good tip. The air nozzle going forward will happen when you pull the anti-reversal latch. If it doesn't, you need to rotate your gears. So you have access right here and you have access inside. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it, and I don't have to worry about holding it down because if I can't see what I'm doing. That's another thing, is you want to be able to see what you're doing. I don't even have the gear, I'm grabbing something else. Good thing about this gearbox is there's a hole right here, so I'm going to use that to my advantage just to grab the anti-reversal latch. And you can see that that came out, so I was able to, get the anti-reversal latch. If you want to make a hole yourself, drill one, you can. So the anti-reversal latch is all the way forward. You can see that that was no issue with the piston. The piston's all the way forward. Now, what would you do if it is locked? And the best way to get out of that, I try this. This doesn't work in every single scenario, but this is a good way if you can get away with it. I'm going to push this back. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start rotating it into position. Actually, I don't even need to rotate it into position, but if you were to get this caught, yeah, it's not going to lock right now. Let's say right here, which is that's okay to anti-reversal latch, but if you get it caught somewhere within this region, right here, I suggest this method. Take your long screwdriver or something, even with a soft end, it doesn't have to be hard end, because you don't want to scratch up your piston head too much. And just push down like this. Make sure that you have access to a flat head. As soon as you push down, watch your fingers, don't hit your fingers here. You can see, and just hold that position and rotate this gear about 4 times. You can let go like that and you'll have it all the way forward. Now that's a good safe way to do it. I guess next we'll go into getting into the gearbox. So you got to undo all these screws here, and one problem I think people have a lot of issue with is the I want to say the springs in the gearbox. That's what makes the tension hard to close it in some cases. So I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew this. It looks like there was some Loctite on here. I do not remember, but I guess I added a little bit. Yeah, I did add a little bit. Every time I close the gearbox, I usually I'm at the point where I just get it closed about every time the first time. I don't have to redo it. So get back in there and check something else. So now I start adding the Loctite. I usually just do these 2 front screws from now on as the least All the other screws kind of hold themselves unless you've got a super fast rate of fire. When you're in the 40 plus, especially DSGs, the threading, if it's very loose, screws just come out like there's no tomorrow. They'll just all start coming out, and that can be a lot of issues. Cracking your gearbox, the issues can just pile up because, you know, everything starts coming undone, and there's, at the same time, the piston's hitting. You can only guess what kind of damage that could do. See, so the front there was only thread locked, and when I do that, I like to match up the screws, so you can see that I'm actually setting them in number so that I know which ones have Loctite and which ones don't. For me, on a gun that's a rate of fire 20, it takes a long time, or even less than that if you have a rate of fire less than 20. See, I'm not even worried that this is going to shoot off. And I guarantee you that's, I think, an M130 in there. Alright, so got it all to this point. If you're scared of it shooting off, or just for safety precautions, you can do it like this. Keep a couple fingers here. Get to this point, people use their hands. They have all so many different methods, but the best overall, in my experience of opening up a ton of gearboxes, just use the flathead. If you can get access to the back, put it right in. If you can't get access, if you have no access, no window, no nothing, what you're going to do is hold the cylinder and slowly pry up the back and see if you can slide in the flathead again. At that point, if you cannot, the next thing you would do is take your screwdriver here, long flathead, and pinch down on the spring guide. So you would open this up just slightly, get it in there, and pinch down the spring guide. Not the spring guide. That way, as you're holding the cylinder, these two things do not move. The trick with the flathead, the long Phillips, is that when you put it in, you push downwards to the cylinder. What that does is that holds all pressure is gone within this top portion right here. So doing that, I can just simply crack the top off. Now, right before I take this off, before I have any pieces go anywhere, I push them down. Just because sometimes they get stuck a little bit, the fittings are real tight. So I push down at least these 4 holes right here with the axles. So I just go ahead and pop this off, and wow, that's real easy. You can see the shims right there. And then at this point, just push down on the piston and the cylinder and pull the back out. Okay, this whole process makes it just as easy to install as to take apart. So now I can just, you know, review things, look over parts here. Here's my cylinder, or excuse me, my this is a VFC type version 2 spring guide. I had to think for a second there. Yeah, it's the same as the other one. I'm just looking it over. So you just look in here. Looks like some of the grease is getting a little dirty from gun usage. And if you need to, you know, get access to anything else, but let's just say, for the sake of the video, you've got these springs are causing you issues. You know, you can see on my guns, or even the guns I work on, they don't come out at me. And the reason for that is I adjust them to what I need. So for instance, let me go ahead and pull out this trigger spring right here. And you'll notice that, you know, it's pretty straight. In not all cases will you have the same trigger type of trigger spring. You'll have something that has a bend on it. You can cut it off. You can pop it in last. If you close down the gearbox and that's the only thing sticking, you can use a flathead and push it in, and you're good to go. But what you want to do is bend it in a way that it's up more. So I'll sit here and bend it up more, and then put it back in. And especially for a trigger, because it's not really all that necessary to have a really hard spring. My nose is kind of getting watery right now. Not a great time when you want to take a break, right? So you go ahead and you put this back in here, and you can see it just holds in place. There's no issue there. The interverse latch is starting to try to pop itself out. You can see this, so I'll just lift this up here. And it looks like we have no feeding issues, no nothing. I think this is the first time I've been in this gearbox. I think I was in the other gearbox and don't realize it. Depending on how this is positioned in there, this will jump around. Depending on how strong the spring is. Two things to note. Always when you close the gearbox, you want to make sure that this works. This width of the shell can be too thick, and you're putting in a new anti-reverse latch. You don't check this. You close it up, you're going to have backspin. What you need to do is make sure that it works just with the bevel gear. Take everything out and check it. Close it, tighten it. Make sure that the spring is strong enough. You can see where the anti-reverse latch is compared to, if you push it here, you can feel it sling. So you know that it has enough to work within the bevel gear. So right away you can adjust this spring, but I will give you a huge warning on that. Adjust it too much where it's not even strong enough to hit the bevel gear, you're going to have backspin because it's not going to work. I normally don't mess with this. The tip I use is a little bit of grease. If you pull this back and hold it and then install your bevel gear into place, what I generally do is let it lock. So I lock it and I push down and I just hold it until they just both stay. Okay, if you have a really big issue, you could slide some magnets underneath. You could actually do a few things. I've seen people, put a little hole at the top and they have something hold it. I've seen people put a screwdriver or something hold it. But normally this is how I get it in position. I get it like that. Alright, so because my nose is getting real wet, I'm going to go ahead and close this up and show you how easy everything is. So you want to get your shims from here first. Never want to turn this over because the shims can shift while you're closing it. So you want to take the shims off. Yeah, there's some dirt in this gun. Brown. Alright, so you get at this point, and make sure your wires don't get clipped. All that stuff's good. Got the shims on there. Just take this, make sure, oh, I didn't mean to hit those two things. It's okay, because I can see which ones have thread lock and not anyways. Make sure the spring is installed the correct way. And just go ahead and insert like this. Push down with your thumb on the piston and the cylinder. And so you're basically palming the cylinder head in the cylinder, but your thumb is touching the piston and the cylinder. So once you get into position, push down and hold down with the Phillips. Just rotate this over and basically drop this straight down. Now you're going to feel it get a little tight. It may not close completely. What you want to do is just go with a screwdriver. Basically press everything that is not exactly in position. So that way it is in position. You can see just about everything's in position here. So you want to take your Phillips, push back the piston, check your trigger here, and just basically look everything over. I see all 4 here holes are covered properly. Back looks good. We know the piston's in, the tappet plate's moving back and forth, and we can see that if I put this in full auto, no problem with the trigger. So you just kind of look everything over, and you can see how easy that was. So you can basically just start to put this back together. This has Loctite, and this one has Loctite. Okay, so you see there's nothing to fear. You can do this, again, just with these types of tools. Okay, hopefully this video has been helpful. If you need more help on how to work on something like this, just pass me up some comments. I'll be very helpful to you. Catch you later.